eating sales now because she has popcorn and I have cookies. So like, who's going to get the grandparents?
That's a good point. Actually, I have to be real. So, I do Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA and all things scouting, obviously. But I am so thankful that our unit does not do popcorn right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I can manage between doing fall product, doing cookies, and doing popcorn at the same time on top of leading.
Yeah.
It would just be like almost impossible. And, for those who think like, oh, like just get someone to help. Like there are troops where you can get lots of parents to help. There are others, like that's not really possible. Right. So like I've been the Girl Scout leader and the cookie person since the dawn of time for our troops. So go figure.
Help with a lot of things, but fall product and cookies are always the hardest to get volunteers for.
Which is funny because fall product is a cinch in comparison. Like I could do that in my sleep. Actually, I kind of did, but don't tell anybody.
Hey, it looks like we're live.
I think so. I'm trying to bring up the one on my phone only because then I'll actually be able to read it hopefully without the feedback. Hey everybody, it is all about Scouts and I am bringing on Nicole, who is a GSCNC Girl Scout leader, and she and I got to talking and we thought it'd be really great to share how her troop is doing camping during this time. And it'll be interesting because I know you've done a lot of stuff where, like my girls have, my troop would experience a little bit more of a challenge. And I thought it'd be really cool to actually have a really open conversation about how we are doing it and like how you're doing it. And if anybody is here and wants to like put stuff in the comments or questions or wants to be part of the conversation, please do, because I think that it helps when we all help each other. Sorry, I'm like adjusting the chair a little bit.
So thanks for having me on. Obviously we do know each other. We used to be in the same service unit. We are now in different service units, neighbors right down the street. But yes, we started camping this fall amid COVID. As soon as Nation's Capital campgrounds opened. And the reason that we did it first off was because I have a big troop. I have 20 brownies. And we were too big to meet anywhere else due to the guidelines. So we couldn't meet the 15 people or less indoors. We looked for local parks, but as you know, we're in an urban area and trying to find a park where you can do the social distancing and not have people kind of coming into your meeting space and stuff is really hard. And there's also no bathrooms. So when you have 7-year-olds trying to have a meeting for an hour, hour and a half with no bathroom is something that's not going to happen, at least not with my troop. They enjoy their bathrooms. So we said, we're going to go to, I said, well, first we can try going to the campgrounds. And then a couple of my girls said, well, we really want to camp. Now, just so you know, as Daisies, we did camp. We started our camping progression really early. And we were able to go to some service unit encampments when they were Daisies and get them used to it. So they are fairly used to camping. This isn't a new experience for them, for most of them. We do have some new girls. So we tried it. For our bridging ceremony, we went to Camp Brighton Woods, which is here in Montgomery County. And we went camping and we did our bridging ceremony there. We had all 20 girls with their parents. No, not all 20, 18. We have 2 girls that did not feel comfortable meeting in person. So we did their bridging virtually. And
Did you do it virtually while you were at the camp?
We didn't. We did it virtually as soon as we got back. We are a hybrid troop. we meet every other week virtually, and then once every 3 to 4 weeks at camp. So we do both in person and virtual. So that way, kind of everybody feels, those that don't feel like they can meet in person can do virtual, and some people just are zoomed out, they don't want to do virtual, so they just do the in person. But I do have to say, the first time we did it was a disaster.
You're being real. I appreciate that.
It was really hard. It was the first time the girls had kind of been out and with other girls. It was hard to keep them spaced 6 feet apart. Some of the girls had a hard time keeping their mask up. And I felt like I was just doing a lot of yelling. I was screaming across a campground, Susie, put your mask on, and
Yeah.
We tried to follow the guidelines. I had all the guidelines. I was trying to follow them, and some of them they just don't work. Like, there is no way to do a buddy system with 2 girls keeping them 6 feet apart. It's almost impossible.
Right. That's when you have to have the Kayla / the parent there.
That is what we decided. So after our first camping trip, we kind of regrouped and said, all right, how are we going to do this so that the girls can still meet in person? And we decided that if you want to camp or come to our in-person meetings, you have to have a registered and background check parent with you. And that's your buddy. So we buddy with a parent and a girl, and they do capers just like you would normally do. We fix food, we go camping, we do the whole 9 yards, except that your buddy is your parent. And we also do sleeping arrangements a little different. The Girl Scouts Nation's Capital allows you to put 4 girls in a Glen shelter. Right. We didn't feel like that was really enough room to have 4 girls in there. So we put a parent and a girl in a Glen shelter. And then we have a lot of parents bring tents.
I was going to ask, because I know we actually did our bridging at Brighton Woods as well, which is up in Maryland. And actually, if you're in GSCNC, that's a great starter campground because of the fact that it's not that tedious of a drive. But yeah, we went there and they had the Glen shelters, but I remember only having like 2 or 3 Glen shelters per campsite.
Yeah, there's about 4. So we had to bring a lot of tents, and I do wish that I like that camp because it's very close to where I live. But we actually went to Camp Winona the second time, and it was much more conducive to COVID restrictions. And by that, I mean, Camp Brighton Woods is really in the woods, and the campgrounds are kind of smaller. Like, there's not as much room to spread out because it's just wooded, where Camp Winona has a lot more open space where you can really spread your troop out.
That is huge. I'll put the link to that campground below as well. So that's actually really helpful to know.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I wish I could do, I still can't do it for every campground, but I'm trying before we go, is to really go to the campgrounds. And my troop has decided for a Take Action project, we're going to do this, is walk around all the campgrounds and video it so you can see how much space is actually at the site. Because, on the maps, it doesn't really say how big is the campground, how much space is there, how much open space is there, which is really crucial when you're trying to do it in COVID, that you have enough space to spread out, and that the girls.
That is huge. Like, seriously, every leader in GSCNC or even the neighboring councils, thank you. Because it's really hard because you don't know the space as well, but if you can visually see it, it's a lot better, and it just works a lot. I don't know, it just works a lot better when you know what you're planning for. So thank you for that, and thank your girls for us. I'll share it too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was really hard for us and that we had to overcome was the girls wearing the masks all day long. So what we did our second and third and fourth camp out was the girls pick a spot that's still within sight line of the main camp. Like it's not out in the woods or anything, but it's way off. They pick a tree or whatever, and they have a little sign on a with a stick pin with their name on it, and they put their name there, and that's their mask free zone, and it's at least 10 feet away from any other girls' mask free zone. And when they get tired of wearing their masks or they're hot or they want a snack or something and it's not snack time or whatever, they can just say, Miss Nicole, I'm going to my mask free zone. And they run over there and they can take off their mask and hang out there as long as they want to, if they're, just having a hard time with their mask at the moment. They needed a spot where they could just take it off and not have to worry about it.
I like the idea of having a mask-free zone, because no matter what unit you're in, either Girl Scouts or Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or Scouts BSA, I think that is one of the bigger struggles that people have had, especially because our cases are going back up.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to be realistic about that. I know that there are units that have camped every single month, actually. And they're doing a really good job, but they're they're a little bit smaller than your troop even. I think once you get past 15 kids, it gets harder. So I love the idea of doing like a mask free zone where kids can have that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the equivalent of taking off, your bra when you come home kind of thing.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So that is something that we had to start. And hiking is a little different because we do try to space ourselves. And I give each of the parents in the buddy group like the instructions of whatever type of hike we're doing. If we're doing a meditation hike or we're doing an explore hike, or because we tend to do different kinds of hikes. Like, are we doing a hike to look at the water? Are we doing it to see what kind of animals we can find? Are we doing a mindfulness hike for one of the patches? I give each parent, and then we space out. And you're supposed to space where you can see the group ahead of you and see the group behind you, but you shouldn't be able to hear them very well. So that way we know there's a good distance and they're able to take off their masks and hike, which has been a real problem, was just trying to hike in the mask, especially up and down hills and stuff. So we find that that's made the hike much more enjoyable for the girls, and they can drink as they hike, and it's just easier for them to breathe and everything. So
that is, I love this, because basically it is trial and error. So if you're a leader, don't be afraid to know that, like, if it doesn't go well the first time, it's probably gonna go better the second time. Like, I think that with our Girl Scout unit, I love that you're doing it hybrid and you're doing it every other week almost. You had told me when we had talked before that when you had the group of, you have a group of 20 girls, and about, the ones that are doing the in-person stuff are really more interested in the in-person. And so you're doing almost 2 different journeys right now for the girls. Can you explain that too? Because it kind of goes in line with the camping, because you guys are incorporating the camping into the journey.
Right. We're doing the girls that are meeting outdoor, we're working on our outdoor badges and our outdoor journey. So we've been doing the hiker, cabin camper, the brownie level outdoor journeys, and working on the Nation's Capital patch program. They have an Explore Camp patch program. So we've been doing that with the girls that are doing the in-person. And then the girls that are doing virtual, we're working on the things that are more easily done virtually, like the Brownie Quest patch, the Democracy badge, things like painting, Girl Scout Way, everybody did together, some of the badges are more easily converted over to virtual. So those we do with the girls that are virtual. And then the outdoor badges and things like, hiking and stuff like that go with the girls that are doing outdoors. So we try and keep it even, about the same amount of badges for both girls, but they are different. And if we are able to meet next year, the girls will all have different badges. So
well, which is kind of cool. We don't talk about that a lot in Girl Scouts, that, the really cool part is, like in Cub Scouts, for example, I always say it's a prescribed plan, because it really is.
mhm.
So like, if we're working on the cast iron chef for the Webelos, that's what we're doing. When we go camping, we generally do the cast iron chef there, right, while we're camping. And with Girl Scouts, you can kind of flex that a little bit more. So you have girls that will sometimes go with other troops and earn different things, which is really, really cool. So just so people know that is actually something that does happen a lot in troops. I love that you're making a plan for both sets of people. And then that if one girl really wants to do both, she could. Because she's a super scouter. I know for our unit, I know for our unit, like we have not gone in-person camping for our Girl Scouts, and we've done virtual, but we haven't done the in-person, only because I have a girl, I have at least one girl and one adult who is immune compromised, right? So my biggest thing was I didn't want them to feel left out. So we kind of modified it. They still did camping, but what we did instead was we did a virtual camp out. And then we had them, go, okay, I want you to set up a tent in your backyard, or let's practice knots, or, do a fort underneath your table, because we wanted to make it as easily accessible as possible. And I'm also that leader that, I don't know that anyone else really does this. And my membership specialist does know, by the way, just before I say what I'm about to say. But I have a Girl Scout that is 3,000 miles away. So I try to be very, very aware of the fact that I've got a Girl Scout who is 3 hours behind me and does not have access to the same things in terms of being able to come with us on a camping trip. But I also know them, and they go outside, they go, cycling and all that kind of stuff often. So asking them to go out camping in their backyard, it would be done, that they're good for that. And when we do archery, like what you did, and I shared that link when I did the live, I shared the link to that picture because it's really super cool. When we do that, I'm literally going to go online and, say, hey, who is in this council that is archery trained? Can, one of my girls go and do that, even though it's 3,000 miles away? So in terms of camping, it's just, again, it's very cool, because what your Girl Scout unit will be doing is different than what another Girl Scout unit will be doing. So I have like a super, super high appreciation for all of this, especially because now I even feel a little bit more comfortable trying to do, in-person stuff. We did the Veterans Day event. There are some things that we're able to do, but now that we're back on the rise, it just makes me a little bit more hesitant, because we've also already had a Girl Scout who got COVID. Her entire family got COVID.
We had one as well in our troop, and it was over the summer. Her and her family got COVID, and they were quarantined, and it made us all a little more hesitant. But we do have some girls in our troop that are in private schools in the area, and they've gone back to school. So it makes it a little easier that we have, 6 or 7 girls in our troop who are very used to masks all day, 6 feet, away. They're having to do that in school. Now, recently, all of the private schools have gone back to virtual learning with the spike in cases, but, and we have troop camping planned in 2 weeks. We'll see how that goes, if we're still able to do it. But even if we can't stay overnight, we're still going to probably go for the day and do some videotaping of the sites and finish up our orienteering portion of our Explore Camp patch. And if you want to, I can show you guys, if you want to let me share my screen.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have some pictures of some of my troop. They will be featured on the Girl Scout Nation's Capital Share campaign. Our girls are going to be the troop that you see whenever you log in to do your crowdfunding. If you're in the Nation's Capital area, those girls out there camping, those are mine. These are them. This is their natural state of crazy.
And they don't have a cell phone or a computer in their hands. What camp was this at?
Let's see. This is Camp Potomac Woods, I believe. I believe this is Potomac Woods. Nope, I'm wrong. This is Winona. This is Winona. What you will see in some of our pictures is some girls that are very close together without masks. I will tell you that we have a set of twins in our troop and a set of cousins who are bubbled together. So they are allowed to be truddies, which is a group of 3, with their parents without their masks on. In some pictures, you'll see them like hugging each other and stuff. It's because they live together, not because I'm letting the girls hug on each other without their masks. So this is the Pooh Tree at Camp Potomac Woods. This is my girls in there. They all were 6 feet. It doesn't look like it, but they were 6 feet apart. So I let some of them take off their masks if they felt comfortable.
So do you know why it got named Pooh Tree? Because now I either think it's either really gross and a latrine, or I think that Winnie the Pooh lives there.
Winnie the Pooh. Everything at Camp Potomac Woods, if you've gone around, it's Disney themed. But
I have not been to Winona.
Oh no, this is Camp Potomac Woods.
I haven't been there either.
Yeah, so the tree is named the Pooh Tree because it looks like the tree that Winnie the Pooh lives in the cartoons. So they named it the Pooh Tree. You can go inside of it and take pictures in there. It's really cute. I wanted to show you, these are some of my dedicated parents and my co-leader that go with us on all of our camping trips. And are really, we have, I know we talk a lot about the parents not stepping out to volunteer all the time. And sometimes I can't get them to volunteer for everything, but they've been really good about giving me lots of input on in-person meetings and really helping out and pitching in and trying to make it doable for the girls. So you can see my kind of core group of parents here, and the girls took these pictures. So they thought it was funny. They got to take pictures of the adults because normally it's the other way around. And my co-leader is here in the front, Glenn, kneeling down with the glasses. He is a outdoor enthusiast. So he makes sure we always have our campfire going and our ovens ready and our coals are cooked correctly.
I love it. See, just for the record, I feel like I've seen out of the 3 service units that I help with, 34-8 and 34-9, I feel like have the most male leaders, which I think is really, really cool. So just for the record, there are men that are Girl Scout leaders. One in 40-2 just got recognized for 20 years of service.
Yeah, and so, Glenn, we couldn't do half of the stuff we do without Glenn being there because he's a stay-at-home dad. So he's able to do stuff that some of the rest of us can't, like, follow up with all kinds of things that need following up while the rest of us are at work. He can help us out doing that. And he's great. And he's the dad of the 2 twins in our troop. So he has 3 girls in Girl Scouts.
So he is very invested.
He is very, very invested in Girl Scouts.
I love that you have good co-leaders and good parents. That's really awesome to hear.
Yeah. And these are our girls doing slingshots. Don't let the looks on their face fool you. They were trying to battle some sort of pretend monster that was on the range. They decided it was coming after them, so they were going to destroy it. After a long hike, I thought this was a hilarious picture. They all fell asleep.
They were just resting. They fell asleep on the benches.
They fell asleep on the benches. And I actually put this on my Facebook feed and said, yes, we Girl Scout hard.
Oh my gosh, I love this. 100%.
Yeah, they fell asleep. They were so exhausted. This was about 3 p.m. They had already hiked, cooked lunch, done, I think we had already done archery and slingshots, and they had been up since like 7 this morning. So they were like, we're tired, fell asleep.
How long did they fall asleep for?
Oh, not very long, just until they heard some of their friends down on the big open area screaming and yelling that they wanted to do a play or sing a song, and then they were up again. Archery. This is one of the things that we do at every camp out. We do our archery and our slingshots. I'm trying to get the girls pretty proficient in that. So we do a lot of archery and slingshots because
how do you manage to get archery and slingshot in every camp out? Because you do camp out almost every month from what you've told me. By the way, this is the picture that I shared, but is there, because this was on election weekend.
Yes. Yes, we got the election results while we were on the archery range. We had no idea what was going on. We didn't know what was going on back in DC, back home, that there were like all kinds of stuff going on. We had no idea. We were out there doing our thing.
And that is the way we like it. Like, that's awesome, actually. I would have much preferred, I think, to be out there than like being like this, like at the computer checking of like, yeah, when's the next update. No, but like, so my question was, is how do you manage to get, one thing I love about, you know, and I'm not dissing any program, I promise. One thing I love about Girl Scouts over Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts is that we do have this opportunity to be able to have, you know, archery and slingshot and all of this stuff at any of our campouts, as long as we've got someone who's trained and we're, you know, being good and listening to all the rules. How are you managing to do that at every camp out?
Well, I'm archery certified, and I'm also slingshot certified. So I do a lot of the high adventure stuff. Girl Scouts has now changed their high adventure reservations so that you can book it in 1 hour slots. So we generally book 2 hours of archery and 1 hour of slingshots. I know that sounds strange, but we have found that the girls tend to get more tired doing slingshots than they do archery. So what we'll do is we'll put archery in the morning. We usually start our archery at about 9:30. We'll book the range from 9 to 11. We start, we'll get them on the range, do the safety briefing and everything, and have them start shooting at about 9:30. We give them an hour and a half you're only allowed to have 5 girls on at any given time if you have the room. So far, we go 4 to 5, depending on how much room is there. And we just do them in rotations for about an hour and a half, and then we're done. And, we'll usually, after we're done with the archery, we'll have lunch, and then we usually do slingshots right after lunch for an hour. And then the rest of our day is camp skills.
Does it cost anything to reserve for the archery?
It's $10 an hour. And I do have to say, we were very, very lucky or unlucky. I don't know how you want to look at it. Yeah. We sold a lot of cookies last year, and we had a very large amount of money in our account that we were going to use to go to Hershey Park and to go ice skating. And the girls had picked horseback riding, which we weren't able to do any of those things last year or over the summer.
Well,
So
let me get you the name of someone in Maryland, by the way. My Scouts BSA troop is doing hold on a second, the horsemanship merit badge for Scouts BSA. And I took my Girl Scout troop a couple of years ago to Shenandoah Valley to do the horseback riding.
mhm.
I love that they have let me put it this way. I love that they have epinephrine on hand. Um, because I've never seen that in a park before, but it was really expensive for what you got, and I did not feel like they took the best care of the horses. And I don't know if it's just the time of year, um, but because of how I believe how they took care of the horses, like we had a Girl Scout end up in the emergency room,
Oh
and it
no.
was like a 45-minute ER ride. By the way, if you're watching, please like and comment below. Let us know if you have any questions too, because we'll try answering them.
Yeah.
But I know for like us, there's a I forget the name of it, but I'll find out this weekend where they do it, and it's $45 versus $75
Yeah.
um at Shenandoah, and the campsites are really tiny too.
Yeah, we had found a place. It's just that a lot of our parents just aren't quite comfortable enough yet, because the girls aren't aren't familiar with horses, so there would have to be in pretty close contact with like the handlers. So it's I have tried to find horse places that would let me be the handler and be in close contact with the girls, since the parents seem to be a little more comfortable with that. I grew up on a farm. I showed horses. I was rodeoing and stuff as a kid, but I can't find any place around here that'll trust me with their horses. So we might just have to wait until COVID's over, and then we'll try the horsemanship thing again. But for now, we have a huge stock of money that lets us reserve campgrounds and reserve archery ranges and slingshot ranges. And it's actually pretty cheap if you think about it, because our entire weekend, we spend $30 on archery and $25 on the campground. So
Wait, for
$55.
the entire weekend? It wasn't per day?
That's for the girls, because day use is free. Overnight use is generally $25 for the campground, and then $10 an hour for the range. So
That's really good. I don't want to. One of our last campouts, I'm not going to say how much we spent, because we went to Shinkatink, and they did some really cool stuff. But let's just say it was memorable for how much it costs and memorable for the memories that it left. I will never, ever, ever forget that camp out, for better or for worse. But we stayed at a KOA, and I don't, as a Girl Scout leader and a Scout leader in general, I generally do not suggest it. Saying from experience, it was both expensive, and it became where I've never had to do an evacuation before, but I did this time because of weather. But no, this is really cool. So what are the girls? Oh, they're sawing.
they are sawing. I took cookout campout training this year. Um, I had other cookout campout trained adults in my troop. We actually have four, so there's a lot of us that are trained in our troop. But whenever I was taking it, I was like, my girls could learn to do this. This isn't something that just the cookout campout person needs to do. So I checked my safety guidelines and it was okay. So I have taught my girls how to chop their own wood with a hacksaw. They all can make a one match fire. They are good at using, they're good. They're getting better at using a compass and trying to find their way.
That takes time. And I mean, they're still young because they're still brownies, right?
Yeah, they're all 7. We have some.
Okay, I think you've done an incredible job if they are managing to do all of that at the age of 7, because not every scout is able to do that at 7. I generally try to stay really close, and this is just me personally. Again, because I'm a leader in both, is I go by the rule for BSA for like knife safety and stuff like that. So I don't have my girls earn it until they are in their 2nd brownie year or above. Just because then, if I have to ever do a joint event, then the rules are the same. But also it's just easier in terms of teaching them, and knowing that, you know, nothing is going to happen. But I think the difference is, at least for my unit, is you're very lucky that you have a lot of people helping you out. I'm generally doing a lot of the stuff for my troop.
Yeah.
So
Well, I do have to say that they were much more eager to use the hacksaw in this picture, because this was taken about half an hour after we found a 6-foot snake in one of our Glen shelters. And all of the parents freaked out, and I went in there and grabbed the snake, and I'm like, guys, we got to get this snake out into the woods. Like, I was trying to chase it out of the Glen shelter. And so where did it go? It goes right into the fire circle where all of the people are. And then there's
roast a s'more.
And then there's like a tree. So it starts going up the tree. And I was like, oh, no. We can't have a snake just dangling from the tree above our campfire. So I reached up with a stick and grabbed it out of the tree. And I picked it up and walked it out to the woods and took it out into the woods and released it. And everybody was like, Miss Nicole just grabbed a snake that was bigger than her and took it out into the woods. So it was not poisonous, just so you know.
I was about to say, what kind was it?
I knew it was not, but it was a rat snake. It was just a big rat snake. It wasn't poisonous. I knew it wasn't poisonous. That I would not have grabbed a snake I didn't know, but I knew what it was. And the girls were just like, okay. I was like, so now do you guys want to learn how to use a saw? They're like, yes.
Like it's almost part of that like response. Like you can't, like the adrenaline response, like
yeah.
Not
the first snake we've seen this year. We actually have been coming across a lot of snakes because the campgrounds haven't been used much. So Miss Nicole ends up moving a lot of snakes, a lot of wolf spiders, a lot of, I try not to kill anything. I try and just move it. But we did find one poisonous, very large poisonous spider at one of the camps. So I did have to dispatch that one.
Yeah, because you never know. I know at summer camp for Boy Scouts, there's this one snake that kept coming back and going under the Adirondacks and under the platform tents and coming right back. And it's been interesting. Yeah. You know, like that. And this one was I don't know what kind of snake. I'm seeing it in my head. And I'm like not able to like figure out what kind of snake it was. But yeah, it was one of those things that like as soon as I saw it, because I, you know, have grown up in areas where not the spiders or the snakes that you saw were not good ones. So I like immediately jumped on the table. And I don't do that very often, but it climbed that tree like you said, and I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. Oh, you had one Juliet Gordon Low up. I just saw that. That was really cool.
Yes, that was.
And again, if you're watching, please drop a like and comment and let us know if you have any questions or any comments too about experiences you're having. Yeah. Because one of the points of doing this is to share, kind of give ideas, because, you know, again, what we've done with our troops is a little bit different. And I mean, I would love actually to do, and this is the beauty about any of your units, is I would love to be like, hey, let's go camping sometime, because I think it'd be a lot of fun. And my girls are old. Most of my girls are older than your girls. I have a multi-level troop. Yeah. So it would be perfect because all my girls get along with the younger girls. But having them exposed to helping to teach them how to be leaders. This was your bridging. Is this at Brighton Woods?
This is at Brighton Woods, between Deer Run Campground, if you know that, and Fawn Glen. Fawn Glen, I think, is where they used to have the teepees. I don't know if you all know this. They do not have teepees anymore at the Girl Scout campgrounds. They have taken those down. So between those two campgrounds is this lovely bridge. It is not the fanciest bridging ceremony, but the girls love it.
It's fabulous.
We had a little mirror, which you can kind of see on the bridge there, and they had to do the twist me, turn me, show me the elf. They looked in the mirror in the water and they saw themselves. then they walked to the other side of the bridge and got their brownie vest from their parent. So it was nice. This is my daughter. So you can see she's kind of an overachiever from her vest. She always says that if she were just a few years older, she could be a troop leader too. But
Well, I mean, she has a really good example for a troop leader. You know, like you clearly have done an amazing job.
So I asked her if she wanted to come and join me on this, and she said, "No, Mommy, I have my Take Action project to work on." So she's actually downstairs working on a Take Action project. So that's some pictures of what we've done, and you know, it's not perfect, and it never is. We mess up a lot, and that is our motto in our troop is
mess up a lot.
Yep. No. It's completely fine to mess up. Completely fine. It's just we try again. Miss Nicole messes up all the time. Yeah. And it's fine. That's what Girl Scouts is for, to let you mess up and try it again. So
I mean, it's better that you learn these skills in a safe environment, you know, than to need the skills later and not have the ability to do them. Yeah. And potentially, you know, not know how to camp, or, you know, not, should you ever need to use a slingshot.
The girls, I see them progressing and getting more confident in themselves when they're able to do this. You know, a lot of them now as 7-year-olds are okay with leading badges. You know, they'll do it for each other. They'll do it for, I mean, if you ever go camping with us, I don't know if you went to the encampment last year, but my girls were the little daisies up there teaching everybody the Girl Scout law song. I remember they had a group of ambassadors that they were like, "Oh no, you can remember it. It's a song." And they were like teaching them the song. So they're a pretty confident little group of girls. They feel like they can really take on the world. So sometimes they're shy and stuff, but get them all together and they're pretty formidable. So.
Oh, I mean, I always made the joke that when we went to, because you know, I took all these troops to the National Stadium every single year. Yes. And I, you know, and this was way before girls were in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or anything like that. So I would have Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, everybody was there, right? And I remember like having a really small group of girls, and they were by far way louder. They were like cheering, having a great time. And it was really funny to see that they were louder than the boys were. And I was not expecting that. Because my girls are not super duper into sports. And hey, Sarah, she said, shout out to GSCNC, because we are cool like that.
Yeah, we it's really funny. I did take this first camp trip that we had at Brighton Woods. I did not know they were doing adult training on the other side of camp. And Brighton Woods is a fairly large camp, but they were doing adult training on the other side. And I took adult training the next weekend, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're lucky you weren't here last weekend. There was some troop of girls that were just really loud all night long." And I was like,
that was my troop.
I'm like, welcome to my troop. They're loud all the time. Luckily, Miss Nicole's a little deaf, so I only hear them about 50% of the time, so I'm good with it. I'm like, I can't hear you anyway.
Well, and they need it. They need the outlet, you know? Like, yeah, there you go. See, Sarah, shout out to GSCNC. I may, oh my, that's awesome. I did not see that one. Did you get that one made?
I did. This was for our Juliet Gordon Lowe birthday party on Halloween. All the girls that participated got a mug cake and a mug.
Oh, that's really cool. Does that say 34A or 34-9?
34-9. Sorry. 34.
Oh, see, it's okay. I'm technically sort of in 34-9 too, so we're all good. So like a service unit, for those that don't know, is like having it's like how, okay, let me think about how to explain this. So it would be like the
Board of
troops are like the den, right? Like the troops are like dens, right? So they're their own unit, usually by grade level. My troop is very unusual that I have a multi-level troop. So I have girls, I currently have Daisy, Brownie, Junior, and Cadet. That and a senior. So that's very like abnormal. That's pretty much almost the whole age range. Most are within the 1 or 2 grade levels. So if you're a Daisy, it's usually the kindergartners and the first graders, or for her, the Brownies would be second and third. So it's like having a den, and then so the troops are like dens, and then the service unit would be more like
I always think
it would
about
be
it
a cross
as
between
the
between
board
the
of directors for them because it's normally just the parents. You know, it's like all the troop leaders that get together, like meetings, and I know.
yeah, it's more like at a pack level. I feel like it's so it'd be more like having a pack, and like Cheryl and Shayna would be the Cub Masters, like I am for Pack 33. But it kind of also borders on being a district. And that kind of they're just the way Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts work are totally different, but it's kind of the equivalent is the best way to put it.
That confuses me. I can't keep up. There's a lot of levels.
There is so like
troop, and then there's service unit. That's just all the middle management, and then the associations are like the upper level management, and then there's council.
Yeah, so then it would be more like a pack. So you're right. It'd be more like a pack. The associations would be more like the district, and then you would have council. Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty small. I mean, our like 34-8 had a split into 2.
We're the split.
And like for those that don't know what an encampment is, do you want to explain that? Because a lot of people, I realized we mentioned what an encampment.
An encampment is whenever all of the troops in a service unit, with us, when we were together, it was our 2 service units were all one big service unit. So we had 48, 49 troops. Each troop is about anywhere from 6 to usually around 13, 14 people, 13, 14 girls. I know some are bigger and some are small.
Unless you're overachiever like you and I.
but we're unusual. Most troops aren't that big. And then what they do is they go camping over the weekend. But normally as Girl Scouts, we do that as a troop. But when you do an encampment, the whole service unit can do it together. That way, troops that don't have any experience camping, or maybe they don't have a volunteer that's certified to take the girls camping or certified to do archery or whatever, you can all go as a service unit and kind of pool your resources. So you'll have enough adults there to meet your ratios. Plus, you'll have enough adults there that are certified in all the different things to be able to do everything that maybe you couldn't as a troop. That's why it was good for us as Daisies, because we didn't have the experience camping, but there were so many troops. Like we camped with an older troop in the same lodge. So we were able to learn from them, and the girls weren't as scared because they had the bigger girls with them for stuff.
And the leaders too.
Yeah, we didn't
even if you know how to camp, it's really good to have an older Girl Scout troop to help you out, because there's just things are a little bit different than normal family camping. Yeah. I mean, like that's why I was saying earlier is it would be great to go do a camp out together, because I know how to do knife skills, like I said, out of my hat, kind of, so to speak. And you have the archery and the slingshot. I'm actually waiting to get trained to hear about the training, because I know Shane is doing that. So I really want to because I'm not trained enough, And actually now I don't know if you've gotten it, and I still have to do it. I'm going to admit that the GS Learn training thing.
Yeah, I've actually done most of it. I did a lot of the testing of the system to check and see how it was. I'm one of those kind of I'm not good with social media. I will say I have just gotten on Facebook not too long ago, and I'm not really adept at like, I don't even know how to use Instagram. I don't know how to use any of that, but I am pretty good with just regular computer systems. So like VTK, I like VTK. It's
I'm
really,
glad they finally came out with that.
I, it's really glitchy. I don't like whoever designed it because I feel like there's a lot of problems with it. And GS Learns, I like the fact that I can take online learning. It's not the best system ever created, but you know, once you get used to it, it's a lot easier than people think. Like it's a good place to keep everything. But I do have to say that even with all of that, I do have to put in a plug for Girl Scout Tracks. I don't know if any of you guys use it, the spreadsheet, but that has been a lifesaver because you can only put so much in VTK. And there is a wonderful woman in Virginia who is no longer in Girl Scouting or Boy Scouting. I think her kids that does Boy Scout and Girl Scout tracks. And it is a giant spreadsheet with everything you could possibly need to track for your troop or your dens.
Yeah, dens, packs, other troops. I always get the terms mixed. I feel so bad because there'll be times I go, the pack, I mean the den, I mean the troop, I mean,
But yeah,
if you want to share that with me, I would be glad to share that because I think that's a really helpful resource. Because I was going to ask, can you use VTK to even plan your camp out? And how are you guys doing food for camp out? That would be my other question too.
Food for camp out has been, I just go in and buy what we need, but the girls have been making it. We do mostly tinfoil packet meals. We have the girls make it at home and bring it, and then the parents can put it over the fire and take it off. But it makes it a lot easier because each girl can bring their own. We don't have to share it. But for one of our badges, we did have to do a one pot meal. And the girls were really good about putting on their gloves and their masks and peeling those potatoes and measuring stuff out and putting it in the pot. And I taught them how to put the dish soap on the bottom of the pot. And, you know, they were great. They did the big one pot meal and we ate it. But for the most part, we try to do tinfoil meals, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically anything you want to cook, throw it in some tinfoil, cook it over the fire. One of our troop favorites is actually quesadillas because it only takes about a minute and a half over the fire to cook. You just get a rotisserie chicken and put it in a tortilla with some cheese, slap it into some aluminum foil and throw it over the fire.
So do you give your parents, by the way, if you're watching, hey, please like and comment. Let us know if you have any questions. Because there's probably gonna be stuff I forget about. So when you go and you're doing the camp out meal planning, do you put everything together and then deliver it to each family, or do you give them a list and say, you know, this is what we're going to do, please have this amount of XYZ?
I bring some. I bring some. Like I told you, this is not usual. This is my Girl Scout room. It's usually just packed high with like camping gear and food boxes and stuff like that. But like
next time, take a picture, please, because that, like, I want to share pictures like that because that is very real. Like, I am in my bedroom. Like I say, I have like Girl Scout stuff everywhere and Boy Scout stuff.
I would say that I always bring the s'more stuff. We bought s'more sticks with our troop money. And so I always bring the s'more stuff. I always bring breakfast stuff. So we always have bagels, fruit, coffee. Coffee is very necessary. I will say that Starbucks instant via coffee works great. Especially they have pumpkin spice latte now in the tubes. I don't know if y'all know that. It's a lifesaver.
Oh, woo, good. You like pumpkin spice. We could still be friends. That's good.
So, you know. So I bring breakfast. I bring.
I don't have to like mark you off on my list for not liking pumpkin spice. It's great.
But as far as the tinfoil meals, I've given the parents all suggestions on what they could put as tinfoil meals. I've sent them some various recipes, but they've all been pretty good about, bringing stuff and saying, "Oh, we thought we would try this," or they bring camp food that like you add water, like the mac and cheese camp packet things, and they'll like heat water and pour it in there. But
Or
you
top
know,
ramen.
huh?
Every patrol's favorite thing, top ramen.
These are horrible. But
I know. We love them though. I'm not gonna lie.
we get a lot of grilled cheese. But we have a lot of girls in our troop who have different dietary needs. So we have quite a few vegetarians, a couple of kosher, lots of nut allergies, a gluten allergy, and let's see, we also have trying to think. Whenever we plan out our meals, it takes a little bit to make sure we checked everything off. We can't have any kind of nuts, no meats. Everything must be kosher. Needs to be gluten free. So
So I mean, we had that. We even have girls that, because I have a good amount of girls in my troop that are Muslim. So we also have to do the halal. So like when we do like s'mores, we have to get the right kind of marshmallow. My biggest thing with the camping, right? And under a normal year, a normal year, unlike this year, which is like really a decade. Just kidding. But this year, or in the previous years, what I've done is I've always said, okay, the girls get to plan the camp out menus. I go and I buy everything because I love the idea, right? I absolutely love the idea of having parents help with, and the girls help with getting their meals prepared ahead of time. But my question would be like storage. Like, do you guys all does everybody have the stuff to be able to store it?
no,
And then the second thing is what if people forget their meals?
I do have some backup snacks that I always bring. I always have like chips and like gluten-free granola bars and stuff. I have food. But I also bring an igloo cooler with ice, and everybody can put their stuff in there. But I have told them, you cannot bring, lunch like this. I'm like, lunch needs to be, and dinner should be, something small. It can't be huge because we got to fit everybody's in the igloo with the ice. Now, I also have to say that we will reserve a lodge oftentimes with a refrigerator. The last 3 times we camped, we have also reserved a lodge in addition to our campground and put all of our food in the refrigerator.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try that next time.
Because even though you can't use that, they asked that you not use the kitchens. They are okay with you using the refrigerator as long as you clean it out. So
Right, and there's a good reason why you can't use the kitchens, because then you have to get trained for something else. Like,
but
don't
like
sneeze. That requires a training. No, I'm just kidding.
But like
But
at the woods, they have the Glen shelters with the lodge attached. Now there's no bathroom. There's still a latrine there, but it was nice having the refrigerator there, even though it was a latrine. Camp Winona, by the way, flush toilets.
oh yeah, I had girls that came on their first like scouting experience ever, and it was at Brighton Woods, and they have like the old-fashioned latrines, and let's just say the girls were like, I want to go home, because they were like they had never like latrines were a new thing to them, and
That
they smelled like a bunch of boys had been in them previously, like all summer long. Like they just were not that they weren't dirty, they just smelled really bad.
Yeah, and I do say that's the hardest thing for my girls in camping is the latrines. That's definitely the hardest part. They definitely preferred um, having the flush toilets at Winona. Whenever we went to Potomac Woods our second time, we reserved one of the smaller lodges. and just for the day. And that was good because we had a flush toilet for the day. They didn't have to deal with the latrine until the nighttime.
So you said like there was ones where like because I've been at Brighton Woods, but again, I've only like used Brighton Woods once. We definitely had the latrine, but I know there was like a lodge.
There's 3 lodges at Brighton Woods.
So are you able like to have the Glen shelters and use the?
You have to reserve the lodge. You have to reserve the lodge separately, and it has to be available. What I do is I don't reserve the lodge. If I have the Glen shelters, I don't reserve the lodge until the day before because I don't want to take up 2 campsites. I'm trying not to take 2 things. But if nobody's got it, the day before we go, I'll reserve that.
Well, thank you on behalf of all leaders. I feel like a lot more leaders are getting their girls out there and camping. My biggest thing is just making sure, like, as Cub master and service unit person and all that kind of stuff, just making sure that leaders are protecting themselves too and following the rules. Because I know that some have kind of like bent the rules, and this is just from seeing in communities online and stuff like that in our groups. And it's really hard because with everything going up, but also for your own liability. So like you've managed to do it in a way that is that in between ground, where the girls can still get out, they can still have fun and listen to all the rules, like having the magic bubble that they could have, that space that they could take their mask off, I think is complete genius. Because the girls all need that at some point. And this has been really awesome. I mean, I would love to do a camp out together with you because it sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, who doesn't want to watch Nicole, grab a snake from a tree? I would like to see this in person.
I think we have that. I think one of my parents videoed it. So you can hear me going, a couple of curse words, snake. Get out of that curse word tree. Why are you in the tree? And my parents were like, do you know you were actually just screaming at the snake, like expecting it to answer you?
Yes, very much so. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I feel like it would be a lot of fun to camp together with you. I've camped our trips have camped with, Shayna and stuff like that. And she's amazing. I want to figure out if there's a way to do that and have it be COVID friendly, because I don't have a ton of girls like that would actually go out and actually go in person. A lot of my girls would do and that's the other thing, is if I were to do it or we went to an actual campsite and camped, I want to make sure that all the girls have the experience to be able to camp. And so I would do probably like a virtual campfire like the night before and like say, oh, make sure you get everything ready. Let's, go do a scavenger hunt, go find your flashlight, go find your sleeping bag, and like make it a game. And then like, have the girls who can camp in person do that. And those that can't can camp in their backyard or at home.
I will say we did that over the summer in preparation for camping. We did all of our virtual camp skills. We made campfires, we camped in the backyard, we did our knife skills. We got all of our stuff together. We made our sit-upons. We did all of that virtually over the summer. We met every week. So we did a different camp skill every week. And I just used the Girl Scout Nation's Capital Explore Camp patch program, and I just went down the like 18 requirements, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this. Some of them you can't do virtually, you have to do in person, like the one pot meals, but like a lot of it we did virtually so that they would be prepared whenever we got out there, and they wouldn't be afraid to grab a knife and use a peeler to make a fire starter or anything like that. So they're not great at knife skills yet, but they're still just 7. So I'm not going to push them on that.
I definitely want it. I mean, speaking from experience on any scout level of seeing kids actually cut themselves when they're doing knife skills, And that's something where the benefit that you have is that all your parents are there, where, you know, you can say, okay, the parent needs to stand right behind them. And as they're doing it, their parent needs to be right there in case anything were to happen. So I feel like, you know, it would actually be really easy and feasible to do knife skills with the girls. I probably would do it when they're 9. Like that, I usually fall like 8 or 9. And that's usually, I follow the BSA rule on that just from experience, because I've seen kids cut themselves, leader daughter included. And this was back when my older son was doing the whittling chip and she was doing it with him. And because I'm the main leader, I also had to go around and make sure everybody else was doing good too. And it was like the few minutes I wasn't looking and she ended up cutting herself and it turned into a really big thing. She it wasn't even that bad, but the way she got herself, it looked bad. And then it freaked her out, you know? So that's the bigger piece of it, you know? So for that, I definitely suggest being a little bit more conservative on. But that being said, you also have your parents there. Like, I think that the biggest thing for me is with our troop, I'm just going to be really honest, that getting our parents out there is not going to be an easy feat. And because I have a mostly, you know, the way my troop is just set up, it's.
I have 2 parents that usually don't come because of transportation and childcare issues. But you know, they also have they have bubbled with other people in our troop so that the parent can bring, you know, one of the other parents bring their kid. Um, and I do have to say, prior to this, I actually didn't want my parents there. I am a big believer in not having parents attend meetings and campouts and stuff because my girls tend to be much more dependent when their parents are there, than when they are different girls when their parents are not around. They are much more independent, much more rule followers, much more. When mommy or daddy are there, that not so much. I have a harder time controlling them. But I gotta say, you know, I think that this all has had a big effect on them. And you know, having mom and dad there is actually just something at their age we just really have to have, because they've just been around mom and dad for what, almost a full year now, you know? And so now I'm like, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time weaning them off of mom and dad again when all this is over.
I don't think I feel like when I go to edit this video, by the way, I'm gonna probably do it in different segments because this is a really good topic because of the fact that I feel like you're not gonna have as much of a big issue for most of the girls because they're gonna want to be with their girls, you know? I know that what you're saying I've experienced even with my own kids. And part of it is that, like, especially with parents like us, we're you know, managing how many different scout groups, we're doing all of this stuff while we are, you know, in our houses. And so it's hard because you're like, you and your kids are in the same house, but you're not always like, they're there, you know? And so it makes it harder. So it might be some of the contribution of why the girls may be like, oh, my parents here, it's all good. So like they become used to having their parents there without relying as much on them. And especially the single parents, I will say that, you know? And it's for those that have older kids, like I feel bad for anyone who has younger kids right now. It's just hard. I'm glad that mine are, you know, like 9 and above. And even still, you know, that's how many times my younger son has like come burst in on like my troop committee meeting. Like one time he came in with a shoe and he was like, a shoe. And it was like the most random thing. And it, of course, had to be the minute that I was talking, which was like 2 minutes of the entire 2-hour meeting. And he comes in with a shoe, talking about his sister's shoe. But that being said, I think it's because they want that attention. I think that it's nice to have the parents when you're able to. I think for me, like, again, it's all about the dynamics of your troop, right? Like if you have a troop where everybody has cars and everybody has, you know, the means to get somewhere and they can pay for the gas and, you know, they don't gotta worry about any of that stuff, they're golden. And it's not like, I think it's great, you know. You know, my pack is a lot like that. You know, most of my parents are financially capable of being able to do everything themselves. They have cars. My Girl Scout troop is not that way. And, you know, that's the barrier, because then, you know, you really have to have them operate in pods in that way. And I love and I appreciate that you have them act in pods. I know for me, if I were to do that as a troop leader, and this would be under normal circumstances, not just during COVID, is I would say, you know what, if you're like, I'm not responsible for anything that happens until those girls get to the camp. So if, you know, if it was you and me, right, and we're in a pod and you're taking my daughter up to camp, and I was a troop leader, and I'm over here, I'm the troop leader over here, I would, you know, this troop leader over here would say, that's great. Just know that that's, you know, you guys doing that. Like, that is not troop related. And I try to keep the two things separate, both for liability and, you know, and all of that stuff. So you know, like for me, it's harder because doing an in-person thing again, how are all my parents gonna be able to get up there without having cars? Not all my parents have cars. This is why I actually, like, if anybody has seen, we called it the big ass van. I just called it the big ass van. So if you remember Jana, right? Like, yeah. Who, like, I love her. She's, you know, she's actually teaching right now. She's up in PA. But anyway, so she, you know, like that big van. Do you remember that big van? Every cookie season, every like scouting event, she would have that. That's what I've been using to transport my girls in. Yeah. And so it's really difficult because now I can't do that. Yeah. And that's like the barrier I'm having. So I know, like, for at least for the, you know, the DMV area, I know Greenbelt is like not too far away from the metro. So you could, in theory, go to Greenbelt Park and camp there. So for those of you that have that struggle like I do, you know, you would have that. But how do you manage with you guys doing the pod like you're doing without running into the problems of, you know, going against like what the guidelines are?
Well, the guidelines will let the parents carpool. It says they can carpool up to 4 people in a car. They just have to keep the windows down, and we've done the disclosures to all of the parents that, you know, here's the guidelines. You have to follow the guidelines if you're going to carpool. Now, they can't carpool more than 2 girls per car, which is fine because I don't think any of my parents have a car that would carry more than probably 2 girls because they're all still in car seats or boosters anyway. So, you know, carrying more than 2 is probably out of the question anyway. But, you know, they are allowed to carpool under the guidelines. They just have to follow all the rules. And I send it out to all of them and say, you know, please follow these rules. We only have 2 girls that carpool. So it hasn't been too big of an issue. They've always carpooled. They've always had to follow different guidelines getting to things. So, so that's, you know, how it's been since the beginning of our troop. And I didn't think that the guidelines really changed that much. I mean, obviously we couldn't do anything with a bus or a big van or anything like that, but we never have anyway. So, I mean, we've never done that even pre-COVID. I mean, maybe we would after COVID, but none of us have big enough. I mean, most of us drive little hybrid or, you know, tiny SUVs. None of us have these big giant cars anyway. So
it's worth it though. I love having like the big ass van because it allows me to take all the girls at one time. And it makes for a really memorable, like when you have to evacuate in the middle of the night and not all your parents are there and you have to put everybody in the car with their sleeping bags, soaking wet. And they just stay up until like, 3 a.m. because to them it's no different. And they just like talk. And I had to get to the point where I was like, no, I actually have to drive you home. And so I need to sleep. So, but it makes for a really that was one of the memories the girls loved the most was going together and carpooling. It's interesting because for Cub Scouts and BSA and stuff like that, it's much, much different, right? And so it's very, very interesting. I mean, I was having this conversation, and for those of you that are in like all the programs, you know, like I'm not in every program, but like I'm in a lot of the programs. I was even thinking about when our Scouts BSA troop does a camp out, I have the struggle of, okay, well, I generally have to take all of us. We all go, right? And that includes my Cub Scout, right? And then I have, you know, my troop, my Scouts BSA, my daughter, and you know, I say Boy Scout because it's easier for me to differentiate the units. But then I have my Boy Scout as well, and they have very strict guidelines in terms of like the age range. Thankfully, my kids are, you know, less than 2 years in age, but then they're also opposite gender, so they can't be in the same tent together. And they even go as far to say, you know, just like what you're saying with the girls, you know, not having their parents at meetings, that gets translated in the camping sense with BSA, because you can't have your like if I go to summer camp, like I cannot, you know, camp with my own child in a tent who is a older scout. So that's like the BSA, the Scouts BSA level is like a like cadet up.
Yeah.
So cadet, senior, and ambassador. And so even thinking about this weekend of like, okay, well then that pretty much means that the way that they've been doing it is, okay, every single person has to camp in a separate tent no matter what. And they have to keep the 6 feet distance. And they're still doing it, and they're doing an amazing job. Like, we have an amazing leader. But at the same time, I'm sitting here going, okay, well, I know that my younger son would not do well camping in a tent by himself. So then I actually literally had to think in my brain, and then it dawned on me, I was like, wait, BSA, I'm a Cub master, like, and then in Cubs, you can family camp.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I was like, would that count? So I'm actually going to go, I'm going to try to find the answer. I'm going to go ask about how it works during COVID, because there's certain situations like, you know, like mine, for example, and other girls in our troop, we normally have the girls camp, or the boys camp together in a tent, at least 2 of them. Yeah. And we can't do that right now. And we're not even allowing the siblings to do that, which seems kind of bizarre to me. So, which makes sense as well. So I'm not saying it's like wrong. I'm just saying, you know, like we got to figure something else out to make it more accessible. So that, I mean, it's, you know, like I've been trying to piece together how to work around that. So I'm gonna find that out, at least for the BSA side. But I know for, you know, the Girl Scout side, I know like a lot of my parents wouldn't even feel comfortable probably being in the same car or carpooling or being in the same tent. And that's what makes it difficult. But I love the idea of doing the pre-dinners too, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I am gonna have to jump off and run because I hear my family eating dinner downstairs. So I'm a little afraid of what they've made.
Oh, it's ice cream and lots of like, you know, candy on top.
I'm concerned that they didn't.
Ice cream is calcium. I go with that. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I had to go make my, you know, go warm up dinner for my kids. We're gonna have mac and cheese. Yeah. Like real mac and cheese, you know, not from a box.
Not really.
No, this was great. And this would be really cool to get a lot of other leaders on to like have brainstorming sessions. And if you ever wanted to do something together, let me know.
I would love to hear what other people are doing, because we're going to continue going out. Now, December, January, February, and March is just going to be day camp, no overnights. So we've got lodges reserved for January and February so far. So we're just going to go for the day and do stuff. But unfortunately, we'll see how this works, because we're only allowed to have 15 girls in the lodge at any given time. We'll see, or 15 people total. So if we get more than 15 people show up, we're going to have to rotate through the lodge. I don't know, we'll get really cold. You go in the lodge, come out. But, you know, I feel like a good hike will get their blood pumping, and, you know,
I love it, you know, because then you could go with the whole theory of telling them like, this is like how, you know, in other countries that where they're cold more times of the year than they're not, this is important. Like they literally sing. I heard that like in one country, they literally like will put their baby in a stroller and like stick them out in the cold because it's supposedly like
Yeah.
it's, you know, for a walk because it's good for their lungs. Me, I was like, I'm cold, no.
No, I don't want to
But
be in the cold, but you know, this is how we're gonna be able to meet. So this
I say
is,
snowball fight.
we might actually earn our snow badge this year. We might. We didn't the whole time we were daisies, but we might get one this year. I don't know.
I'm hoping, you know, MLK weekend would be great. Although that's also the inauguration weekend, but um
I don't like it when it snows. I don't want it to snow, but I
it's
understand.
usually warmer when it snows though. And we're now slated for having like a little bit below average snow, like that I saw in this weather group because I am a little bit of a weather geek. And I was like, no, that means it'll be colder. But yeah, no, we should come up with some ideas for the winter. And if you guys ever, I will be sharing, which would be great. It's called Lab Robotics. I shared it on my page below at some point last week, so I'll re-find it. But I'm in touch with the person who runs it, and they do some awesome like coding, robotics, science STEM badges.
Robotics, is that the robotics club where they do the different competitions and stuff? Is that who that is?
I don't think so. And that one I saw in True, I think that's the one I saw in Troop Edition, but it was really expensive. This one is actually really, really affordable. And it's run by, you know, by someone who, you know, has done scouting. So I'm in touch with her, and I'm gonna probably end up doing like a Facebook Live with her as well, but just to kind of share it. But that might be something we could do together as with our troops too. Because then she gives you the whole list of materials that you need, and but it is geared more towards your troop than it would be even mine. So I'm gonna have my cadets doing the junior badge. So you know, if your girls happen to have that split next year, like,
Yeah.
and you probably know this, but they can always earn it
We
up or
don't.
down.
Yeah,
So
we're one grade. We're one grade. We're just second graders. We never split.
I'll see. That's nice though. That's really nice because you don't have to have the split planning, which is
Never.
really big.
But I will, before I go, I will put in one more plug for Girl Scout and Boy Scout tracks. That is TRAX. If you are looking it up on Google, the lady that does it, there's two ladies that do like two different versions. It's awesome. It has a tab. If you're good at Excel, if you hate Excel and you never want to see an Excel spreadsheet, it's not for you. But if you are good at Excel or you're even middling at Excel, it's great. It helps you plan everything out. You can add tabs for things like camping, and you know, it already has attendance and all your badges are on there. It'll pre-populate everything you need to go to the store and buy. It'll pre-populate what each of the girls have earned, what they have been given. So if you're like me and they earn a bunch of stuff and then you do a quart of awards, you know what you've given them and what you haven't given them yet, what you still need to order at the Girl Scout store, free shipping.
Oh, I forgot about that. You're right.
Where
I
they
need to order all my stuff while the shipping is free still. Thank you for reminding me.
So, so I will put in a plug for that, and the great ladies that put that on. I think one of them's name is Audra Edwards, I believe is her last name, but they're actually, I think, in our council. At least one of them is, and the other one I think is on the West Coast. But yeah, they're great. They put that together. It's for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts. I see them all on there. They are a true Scout family. So
If you can message the page with that, like I'll definitely share that even separately because I think that's really important. I know, like even with the robotics thing, I was trying to tell her. I even looked up the requirements for the Cub Scouts, and I was like, oh yeah, this covers all the, you know, what you do for the juniors for the robot. What was it? The game design badge for the juniors. It covers it for the game design for the Weebles and AOLs too.
yeah.
And so, you know, I'm probably going to end up inviting both and then having them do it together or have them do it separately, you know, depending, because they're going to get to like create their own game. Yeah. Like, so they get to learn coding and making their own game. But, you know, it would be great just for that alone. So I definitely want to check it out. And you could put it in the live too, like just add it as a comment and stuff like that. But no, thank you so much.
I'm putting the webpage in the comments right now. So there we go. All right. I'm going to have to head out. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully next time we can get a bunch of other leaders to join too, which I think would be really, really, because I really want to do these, you know, like, I don't want to call them roundtables because that's a Cub Scout and Boy Scout term for the districts, but to have like a, you know, a roundtable with leaders talking about what we're all doing, and even comparing the different units, because again, all councils are different, but people have some incredible ideas. And I love that, by the way, I love that you're doing archery at every camp out. 9 a.m. is a little early for me though.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
I am all about the archery. I love it. So I will talk to you all later. We are Troop 34110. If you want to check us out on Facebook, or if you want to message me, I'm Troop 34110 at Gmail, Nicole McWhorter. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or have some tips for us. Reach out and touch someone. Reach out and touch someone. Anyway. So I'll talk to you all later. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for being here and sharing what you're doing.
Bye.
Ciao. And don't forget to like, share, comment, let us know if you have any questions, because one or both of us can follow up as well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to download this and also put this on YouTube as well, so you guys will always be able to find it in both locations. But I will see you guys later. I hope you have a great evening. And just like a scouter is, I'm gonna go from this to a unit and do more scouting. Talk to you guys later. Ciao.